totally with you. And to give people context, what we're talking about is a viral video right now, a big, strong kid playing in a playoff game down in Texas who, after receiving 2 consecutive penalties, getting kicked out of the game, helmetless, sprints onto the field like 30 yards and just wipes out the referee who kicked him out of the game. We'll go ahead and show that video now.
We got 2 fouls on the defense. We got a personal foul, late hit on the quarterback, number 88, and unsportsmanlike conduct, number 88 on the defense, has been disqualified.
It's absolutely inexcusable. It's crazy. It's illegal in the context of sport, but in the context of the world, it's just wrong. But once you see it, at least I can't help but start to break the thing down. Now, it's clear that maybe this young man has a natural disposition for that sort of behavior. We should recognize that. We understand it. We don't know what sort of life he's led, what sort of trauma he's seen and been exposed to, and that's fine. But understanding the young man's situation and excusing the behavior are 2 very different things. So that's important to recognize. Once you recognize it, I think you have to ask yourself how that disposition may have been nurtured over time. So his family, his coaches, his community, how have they addressed that behavior and moved it, guided it in one direction or the other? So as an example, like you've seen this before, to hype kids up, and remember I'm using the word kids, if his coach is telling him something like, get to the quarterback and break his neck, that's a problem. And I'm not saying his D-line coach did that, but I have had the privilege to be on hundreds of sidelines with countless coaches over the years at a variety of schools, and what I just said, that's a direct quote. Okay, and if I want to reframe that quote very quickly, essentially an adult is saying to a child, hey kid, when you get to that other kid in this game we're playing, go break his neck and maim him for life. It's obviously not what you mean, so your coach is trying to hype him up, but that can't be the sort of thing an adult says to a kid. Win or lose, success or not, that cannot be okay. So if the young man was told something like that, if that's the way this perhaps naturally violent and aggressive and angry young person, for whatever reason he's arrived at that point, if that person has been guided in that way, I feel sorry for him. I don't know that to be true, but here is one thing I do know. The Monitor, which is a newspaper serving Texas Rio Grande Valley, reported that this young man walked off to the field, in police custody, mind you, walked off the field to cheers from the crowd. And at that point, I'm like, okay, something is obviously wrong with the way that this kid has been nurtured over time. So I'm thinking of parents up in the stands. Even if that kid has been to your house before, is friends with your son, and has been nothing but polite to you, you can't cheer on that kind of behavior. Sometimes the people you love and care about the most do bad or hurtful things. That happens. You can't endorse that. So so you love your dog, fantastic. You don't applaud when it gets on the rug. If you love your kid, great, but you don't take him or her out to ice cream after they get caught cheating on a test in school. This is absurd. This is assault that this kid just displayed, and the fans are cheering. It can't happen. So whatever sort of guidance and behavioral reinforcement this young man has received over the course of his lifetime, it was either wrong or insufficient. And I think we can own that. We have to. As coaches, as a community, and I would even say in the greater realm of what we prioritize in sport, I think we have to own that. And, I go back and forth in this discussion because, and I sometimes have to remind people that I had a 16-year football career. I played O-line, D-line, linebacker, fullback. I am all about contact, toughness, resilience, big hits if they're legal. Still, I'm an adult now. I don't play anymore. And the sound of pads clicking in football season gets me going. I get excited. But the sort of behavior we saw in that video is nonsense. This kid has some work to do. honestly, I hope he receives appropriate repercussions from the team, the school, and law enforcement. But I also hope he gets the chance to play college football. And hear me on this. When he does, I hope he gets the right kind of coach. One that coaches up his strengths but holds him accountable for his flaws and ultimately sets him on a better path. Because, if what we saw on the field after the whistle, outside the heat of the moment, with plenty of time to consider the impact of his actions, if that is any indication of where this kid is in life, then the football field or the wrestling mat, that might be the only place he can be reached. And I'm an educator. I have a lot of teachers in my family. But look, if that is sort of his natural inclination and disposition, I don't think it's going to be in the history classroom where his path is significantly altered. It's going to take someone to meet him where he is, like I said, on the football field or the mat. And that person has to take their job seriously and to take the next step. So I hope the best for the victim, that injured ref. I hope he recovers fully. And I hope there's a coaching staff out there who understands that their job extends well beyond sport and is willing to do the hard work of getting this troubled young man on a better path.